Sunflower Soul Studios is providing this podcast as a public service and for educational purposes only. It is neither a legal interpretation nor a statement of Sunflower Soul Studios policy. The Misunderstood podcast does not constitute advice or services. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by the Sunflower Soul Studios.
Thank you for joining us today. If this isn't your first time joining us today, welcome back. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. So we did have an unforeseen incident happen where we were supposed to have a licensed therapist come in.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, life happened and she was not able to make it. So we are thankful for the time that we did spend with her. We did meet beforehand and had an excellent meeting with her.
Yes, it was very informative.
Yes, we learned a lot, and she gave us some tips and ideas about what we wanted to do for this episode. So to her, thank you so much for all of the assistance that you gave us and tips and ideas.
Yes, thank you.
And if you're watching, thank you again. All right. So just to kind of give like a backstory on how I even met this therapist, as I've mentioned before in our previous episode, I do photography. I also do many other things outside of photography and this right here. But I looked upon a job through my photography as being a photographer for the Women's Center here in Jacksonville, Florida. They help by providing counseling and services to women who have been sexually assaulted and raped. And I was going to do their photos for them because they were having an event where they were having an award ceremony honoring local sheroes here in Jacksonville, and they needed some headshots done. And so since they needed those headshots, I was going to be the photographer for that. And I ended up during that session with them, I ended up kind of giving them my own backstory of what happened to me. I broke down crying. It was a very dramatic moment. I am, I guess, just a crier. I just cry everything.
Hey, let it out. Don't hold those things in.
But all the ladies, they comforted me and they, gave me some advice. And there was a beautiful soul there who I was going to be doing her headshots. And she was like, I want you to be a speaker at my next event that I have coming up. And I was like, what? Like, no? I don't know. I think I'm going to be a little nervous. I don't know if I can do that. And because I have like this, I think everybody always thinks when they hear their voice they sound crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how I am.
You're not used to hearing yourself that much.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. But I ended up writing her a couple weeks later, and she gave me some information on the event, and I went on and did it. And yeah, that day I was a complete mess. I was very emotional. I was surrounded by strangers, but I was also surrounded by my loved ones, my mom, my dad, this beautiful woman right here, Serena was there, some other friends that I had. I had my man there, I had my dog, and I had my son. And they all, came to support me along with all these strangers that I didn't know anything or didn't know who they were. But the event was with us having a silent walk, and the silent walk would lead to the speech where I gave this whole speech. But before we got to the speech, we had to do the silent walk, and I can't remember exactly how long it was or like the mileage of it.
I believe it was like a mile.
A mile? Okay. So we had to walk in complete silence, and that was to kind of represent the silence that women and men as well who have been silent about what happened to them. That's what the silence represented. So that's that. We did the walk, and then we went to the speech part. And the actual walk itself was called The Weight of Silence.
Yes. And they had like banners made, and
yes, the posters, all of the everything was just just amazing. On the sidewalks, they had like encouraging words on there.
Right.
And the whole time, I'm like trying not to cry as we're doing the walk.
Yeah, because there's little messages,
Yeah.
like you said, on the sidewalk, like words of encouragement, and say you can relate to them because you're like looking at them alone, and then you're still silent. So it's just like you're in the moment.
I was in my whole head and full of emotions, and I just had to keep going. I just kept walking.
Yeah.
So thank you to everybody who was there. All right. So once we got to the actual time when I was going to do the speech, and I already knew I was going to be like a bucket of tears. I already knew I was going to do the ugly cry. I was just like, I don't know what was going to happen, but I knew it wasn't going to be pretty.
Yeah. You still look good. You still look great.
And I knew I was going to do the like that thing. I knew I was going to do that. But so I gave my speech, and afterwards, that's where I met the therapist that was going to be here today. And so through this whole, just the photography job, it just led to this whole thing, and I'm just thankful for it because it was honestly like one of the best days of my life, because I felt like I was able to free myself from what I had been holding on to, the weight that I was carrying. So I'm thankful for that. I will say, after I gave the speech, I was down for like 2 days. I was so exhausted. It was like as if the weight that I was carrying, I didn't realize at the time that it was like tiring me out, and afterwards I was just
like emotionally drained,
and I couldn't do anything. Thank you to my man, because he took over the house afterwards and helped me with my son and my dog, because I couldn't do anything. I was in bed for like 2 days, and but yeah, so thank you to everybody who was part of that day. It really means the world to me. Thank you to the therapist that helped me along the way and counseled me and told me, little things to do. So if y'all are watching, thank you. I know, and I also just know that that's just a testimony of God, of how He's just been moving through my life through this whole thing as well, because just from a photography job that I volunteered for, just because I connected to it, I didn't ask for payment for it or anything. I just wanted to volunteer my time for it and support, because I had my own story. And just with that, it led to this. And now it's like, now we have this podcast. Now we have like all the things that we're working on. And it's just been like this amazing experience.
Yeah, and it's like you're elevating and learning more about yourself. And healing at the same time.
Yes,
it's
definitely
a beautiful
healing.
thing. Like when you open yourself up to, being vulnerable, or like giving your testimony, and it led to all of these different things,
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. Like, don't be afraid to share, the things that you have gone through, because you don't know what it can do for you and for other people.
For other people, definitely.
So,
yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
So thank you for everyone for that. And now we're going to move on to our section where we talk about the actual diagnosis that can stem from trauma, from any types of trauma, but we're talking about sexual assault and rape here, but this honestly can go for any types of trauma that you can have, these type of diagnoses that come from this. So I'll have Serena take lead on that.
As we mentioned in the last episode, trauma can show up in people's life differently, and everybody reacts and acts differently in response to that trauma. And we're not going to go through all of those different things, but if you would like to, you can go check out our last episode, which we would love you to do if you missed the last one. But today we're going to be talking about the different diagnoses that come with it, like depression, ADHD, PTSD, and just go do a little bit more explanations behind those, different diagnoses.
Yeah.
So the first one we'll get into is ADHD.
That's your girl.
ADHD, some people can't focus well, they're super hyper, and you don't know that those are tied to
impulsive.
Impulsive.
Yes.
And you don't know that can be tied to your reaction to your trauma. So ADHD actually stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. So if you break every one of those words down, like attention,
it's hard to pay it.
It's hard to pay attention. Hyper, you can't control yourself. You're all the way live.
I'm very impulsive. Like even just for me personally, I know spending money. I used to be very impulsive with that. Like especially if I needed to feel better, retail therapy was like my thing. Like I would go shopping, and shouldn't have went shopping because now I'm like I got this due and this due. Thankfully, Deshauna has done better. She's not doing that anymore. I'm actually like a whole lot cheaper than I was.
Hey, times have changed. Like you can't even out here wilding out like that.
Can't anymore.
You have to have some structure behind your finances for sure.
Yeah.
But I haven't been diagnosed with that, but some of those symptoms I can relate to because I know I have been impulsive and paying attention, like focusing on one thing. Like I found myself starting one thing, moving on to another. Like I'm over here, I started this, and I have all these different projects.
Cleaning your house.
Yes.
Like I'll start in the bedroom, but somehow I end up in the kitchen, and I forget about the bedroom, and it's just nothing ever gets done. It's just a rotating circle. Like
nothing's completely done. Started this, started that, started this.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things that ADHD causes: boredom, anxiety, depression, having a hard time controlling your anger, low self-esteem. ADHD and low self-esteem. I never, paired those two together. Having mood swings, relationship problems, substance abuse or addictions, I never really would have paired that with being symptoms of ADHD.
The relationship problem.
Being addicted to. Having addictions.
Yeah.
And
that's a big one I feel because I know for me at least I had the addiction of alcohol and sex. So it was like that was me.
Yeah.
Because you're always wanting that high. You're always wanting that.
The next hit of something because you get
and
bored
you're trying to
forget
all the crap. That was me.
Wow.
So
next is PTSD, which stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. This happens when someone experiences something shocking or scary, and it is something that they wasn't expecting. It typically happens when their life is threatened or they had a big injury that occurred, and it leaves them feeling stressed or having anxiety just from it being such a traumatic experience.
Even when they're not even in danger at that moment, but like if they hear a loud bang that reminds them of something, it'll cause them to feel like their life's in danger, but it really could have been like a book dropping or something.
Right, because it's something that triggered them from that moment.
It's all about those triggers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something that happened in the past. So symptoms of PTSD may last for months or years,
It's not one thing. It can be from, I know I feel like as if I have the PTSD too that stems, I honestly don't know where from. I know I have it from the assault, but I also feel like I have it from other things as well because I don't remember loud noises or anything, but I do know that when I hear a loud bang that I am on I'm on high alert.
Yes.
But I guess it was sometimes, I don't know, but I definitely feel like I have it. I know I had it after I had a car accident a few years back, and so I had that I still have some triggers from that. Whenever a car comes up behind me, because that was like the last thing I saw in my rear view mirror is a car coming up behind me before it hit me from behind. So now every time I look at my mirror and I see like a car coming behind me, it was worse when I first started back driving after the accident. It's gotten better now to where I don't react as much, but I can definitely see where I have that reaction to it.
Okay. Well, some symptoms are feeling worried, guilty, sad, frightened, having trouble concentrating. You can even have physical pain or headaches come from the as a symptom from having PTSD. You know, I don't have any personal relations to having any PTSD, any PTSD to any trauma that I've had. But I know someone who does. Like you said, like when they hear a loud noise, they're like, and then just like, what's the hypervigilant, like always scouting for the trauma or the trouble, like looking for the trouble because you just think like you're always on protection, high alert, you know.
That's like with a lot of men and women that have gone to the military that's dealt with any type of war or anything. They have a lot of PTSD, so when they come back to their families and they're like not the same person. They're not the same person that they were when they left. So it's definitely real. I've seen it firsthand because I grew up in a family that was in the military, and then I've also dated, and then I've just always been around it my entire life and seeing friends, seeing it, and so I just understand that it's a real thing, and that's why we need to be a little bit more sensitive when it comes to other people and how they respond, because again, not everybody is the same. We don't all have the same background.
Our next diagnosis of trauma is depression, which is a very common and serious illness. It can affect the way you think, how you feel, and how you act, and it is very treatable. Depression causes feelings of sadness and loss of interest in activities that you probably once enjoyed. It can change how you behave at work, how you interact with your friends, your physical,
your home life.
Yes, your appetite.
Whether you're eating or you're not.
Right. You can be depressed and overeat. You can be depressed and undereat.
Yeah. So that can also hinder that can affect your weight. So you can either be higher in weight or lower. You can feel tired,
feel worthless, feel guilty. You can have a hard time thinking or concentrating.
And unfortunately, even thoughts of death and suicide, or wanting to hurt someone else.
Yeah, it's very serious. Like we said, it's common, but it's very serious. And people might hear, "Oh, I'm depressed," or they throw that word around lightly and they take claim to it, but really it's an illness, and you might want to watch what you put on yourself. Don't be so casual with that, because there's people who have trauma and they actually have depression and they can't get out of it, and they actually need help.
Because it's different spectrums on the depression. You might have, like me, I already knew, I had a sense that I had a bit of depression, but I never had the diagnosis. But now that I have the diagnosis, I can recognize it now, and I'm a functioning person. I can still function and get through things, but there's people that just can't do nothing. That's just down. And so we have to be mindful of that, because like we said, not everybody's the same. So that's why it's always just important to consider other people and what they probably have gone through in the past, especially if you don't even know them, just because they react in a way that you don't recognize as what you call normal.
Right.
But you should just be mindful, hey, you know what? This might not even have anything to do with me. This might be something that they are dealing with themselves, and I'm not going to sit here and judge them based off of that. I'm just going to understand that it's something that I won't understand unless they tell me.
Right.
So,
and I have family and friends who I've witnessed them in a depression state and not knowing that that's what they were going through, because I didn't know. They, you just wonder why they don't come hang out no more. They don't socialize their energy levels down,
Yeah.
maybe probably because they were depressed,
Mm-hmm.
and going through something.
Yeah. All right. So the next part we're going to go into is defining consent. And I feel like that's very important that we need to define this because apparently people don't know what consent means.
Right.
And because obviously women and men are continually being assaulted and raped and disrespected and degraded as if they're not a human being themselves. So consent, I'm going to give the definition according to Indiana University. I had Googled this one.
Okay.
Consent, yes, because I wanted the definition and as clear as I possibly could give. But consent is an agreement or permission expressed through affirmative, voluntary words or actions that are mutually understandable to all parties involved to engage in a specific sexual act or a specific time. Consent can be withdrawn at any time as long as it's clearly communicated. Clearly between both people, not both, because it could be multiple people. If it's like I don't know, but whoever's involved. So it's clearly defined, and that's where we need to have define that, because people aren't respecting that. They're not caring about other people's boundaries. They're just doing what they want. And blaming whoever or whatever and saying, oh, I was drunk or I was this and it's like, no, you can't be sitting here doing this.
Right. And they also said that let's point out the part where it says specifically sexuality at a specific time. So it can happen at any time. You could be in the midst of something and then
decide that you don't want to
go any further.
Yeah, just because I said yes in the beginning, I may have thought about some things and was like, what am I doing?
No.
I don't think I want to do this anymore, and change my mind, and now it's no. Mm-hmm. So if I say no, or that I don't want to do this anymore, then it's like, okay, you need to stop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but you can't do this. I know you read it, but no, we gotta stop it.
Yeah.
So
no further.
So that's I just wanted to give that definition because I feel like it's important for us to go over, because some people just don't know, or they just possibly just don't care, and that's where we run into trouble. I feel with that, the people that don't care, because that just means you're just a terrible spirit.
Like you want what you want,
you don't care about nobody else thing or how they feel or what. So next we're going to go over the different scenarios of where it can actually take place, or the environment that you can be in at that time when an assault may happen, and everybody's scenario may be different. So we have scenarios such as you may be at work. Maybe it's a boss or something that is trying to persuade you to do something so you can get a promotion or get more money or something like that, and you feeling like you are obligated to do that so you can get the bigger check or the promotion, when in fact you shouldn't do that. You should definitely let whoever you need to know, authorities, HR, if they do something, because I done dealt with some HRs, they don't do nothing, y'all. But it can also be man on man. We kind of mentioned this last episode. It can be man on man, woman on man, man on child, child on child. It can be different scenarios, and it's not everybody's situation is going to be the same. So that's why it's important to recognize that, because we always focus in on the man on the woman when it can be so many other things.
Yeah.
So for instance, Serena had her assaulter was a woman, mine was a man, and as you see, we have totally different responses and reactions to our trauma, and that's why it was important for us both to kind of tell our backstories for that, because we have different reactions to things, to our trauma.
Right, as everyone would.
As everyone would. So also the environment that you grew up in, or that you were when you were a child, and then as you grew, that can affect how you react to certain things, or that you think are normal, but it's actually not normal. Like for instance, if you grew up and you're used to seeing daddy do something to you or something that he's not supposed to be doing inappropriately, then you think that's okay. So now you're growing up and potentially doing the same things that daddy did to you to other people, and it just creates this whole cycle of not okayness.
Bad behavior.
Yeah, very bad behavior. So but yeah, it can be anything from like family or employer to friends to strangers,
extended relatives.
Yeah, it can be anything. Anybody that you're dating. It could be like a cultural norm, like such as like marriages. If you're married, just because you are married, the husband's saying if he wants sex, but the wife doesn't want sex, so now he's like, no, we're married, we're gonna do it.
Right.
Like, so now it's mine, but the woman is saying, I'm tired, I don't feel like it at this moment.
Yeah.
The man needs to respect the fact that the woman at that time is saying no, and not just do what he wants when he wants.
Right. A rag doll.
Yeah, exactly. Because we are not rag dolls.
Yeah. They have those now.
I know, y'all better go get y'all blow up. Go get your blow up.
I gotta say for that. You know?
Yeah. So next, I guess we'll get into the treatment and coping for it. Now let Serena go over that.
Yes. Therapy.
That was me. I went to therapy. I'm going to, I kind of mentioned this last episode, I'm going through 2 different types of therapy where I do one-on-one, and then I also do a group therapy because my actual therapist wanted me to try to do a group therapy just to get other viewers like tips and ideas on things, on how they handle their healing. And it's been like amazing since I started it, and like they've helped me and I've been able to help them, and I actually have a session tomorrow that I'm excited for, but it's been really good and I'm thankful for it because it's made me more vocal. I've been feeling freer on how I talk about it now, because like my big thing is me talking about it and not crying anymore.
Yeah, like not getting holding in the tears.
Yeah, I don't want to say holding in the tears. Like if I cry, I cry. I just don't want to cry every single time I tell the story.
Like all the emotions.
Yeah, I want to be able to control the emotions as much as I can without holding back how I'm feeling. Like I want it to be more natural, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm explaining that right.
Yeah. So like journaling could be one. Yoga, music. Those are things that people do to cope. Speaking about it is a form of treatment. What made you want to talk about it?
Spiraling. I spiraled, I believe it was in 2019 I spiraled, and I was triggered. I was triggered by an ex at the time who threw my assault in my face because I spoke. Person, what happened to me?
You know who you are.
Don't do that.
You suck.
And kind of just threw it back in my face once we broke up, because I was the one who broke up the relationship. And even though what was said to me was wrong and should not have been said, I am thankful for it happening, because with me spiraling and me crying every day and doing all of this stuff, I can't hide it anymore. It was all coming out. I was crying on the phone with my mama, doing all kind of she didn't know what was going on. She just like, why is she crying? What's happening? And but yeah, so that is what caused me to talk to my parents, tell them like, hey, I think I need therapy. And I signed up for therapy, and I think it was it 2019? It was at the end of 2019, because then it led into 2020. So yeah, I'm not good with time, y'all. But yeah, so all of that took place, and I spiraled, and I went back into my old ways of drinking heavily and sex and just doing what I shouldn't have been doing, not realizing that at the time, not realizing that what was said to me was what triggered me to do that. And it started me on the journey of healing, and I started talking to God more, and I started talking to myself more, and talking to other people more, and not talking only to friends or family. I was now talking to licensed therapists and people who are actually professional, who can handle what I'm bringing to them. Because if I'm telling like a friend or a family this heavy stuff, they're like, this is a lie. They don't know what to do all the time with that emotion, especially if they've never experienced it themselves, or if they have experienced it, they might be triggered from what I'm telling them because they maybe not have even handled their own emotions behind what happened to them. So that's why it's also just important to talk to someone who is licensed for this. Not saying that should be your only source or the only way that you do it.
Right.
But yeah, that was what made me talk. A spiral.
Wow.
What about you?
Just listening to you, and we had those girls' nights where people would share, and like I never spoke up about myself. Like nobody really knew. So I was just like, maybe there's stuff going on with me that I don't know is related to these different things that has happened to me, because the same stuff has happened, and then some of the symptoms I could see that I could relate to in myself. So just being amongst other people who are being brave and talking about their situation, it made me want to open up and share, like, hey, I can relate to you in that situation. Like this is what happened to me. This is what how I handled it, what I went through, my thoughts on it, and it just went from there,
Yeah.
Not realizing that it could really help somebody else,
Those girls' talks were very important and very much needed at that time, because it's one of the things that I was using to help me get through. Because at some of those, we call them sessions.
Yeah,
we call them sessions. I was in the midst of spirals, and
kind of took you out.
Yeah, so it was a really good thing that was happening with that. So I'm very thankful for all the ladies who were a part of that, all of the ladies that were a part of that. Thank you. It was very much needed, and I hope everyone's doing well as well.
Yeah, me too.
But I will say, just going from the sessions that we did have, that's why it's also important for us to not have that be the only way that we're talking about it. Because I did find that sometimes it was just too much for, like, if someone was going through something and I'm also going through something, but they're wanting to tell me all of their stuff. Now I'm carrying what you have and what I have, and then we have everybody else's, and I'm like, I can't do it. Now it's too much for me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to heal myself. I can't heal me and heal you.
Right.
And so I was like, that's why it's important for us to do the self work, and to talk to other people that are licensed to do this. So I very much recommend going to therapy, because it's been a big help for me, and it's helped me with dealing with all of the triggers that I have, and me recognizing that just being around, like for me personally, just being around someone who, especially a man, more men than women, but a man who is drunk, and especially if it's like a sloppy drunk, it triggers me, even though I may not be drinking myself, or even when I was drinking, like it's always been a trigger for me, because that's what was happening when I was assaulted. I was drunk and that person was drunk, and it was just like, that was always a trigger for me. So anytime I was around a man who was just too much, it always brought it back for me, and then that's when I would overdrink and then just do too much. And so yeah. So now we're gonna go into what I feel is like a big thing. It was hard at first, but the more I grew in my spirituality, the more I was like, you know what, it's better for me to do this than not to do it, because I'm only harming myself more than it's hurting the other person. And what I'm talking about is forgiveness. Yeah.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
That's a big one, because you don't know.
And it's hard.
It's not easy.
Especially when you never got an apology. You never, they never seem to care enough to reach out or say anything to you. You just have to recognize that you only harming yourself if you don't do it. Which is why I named this episode "To Forgive or Not to Forgive," and because I felt like that was just something that I know I needed to do for myself, because it wasn't doing nothing good for myself. I was only harming me by over drinking, doing whatever with whoever, and I'm the one who's waking up like hungover and just a complete mess and spiraling. And so to get that weight off of me, I had to forgive. And I feel like with that speech that I spoke about earlier, that was what was able to help me get to that point to be able to forgive, because I got it all out. I wrote it all out, and I also put a letter to my insulter in the speech, and I was able to forgive through that. And so if you ever watch this, sir, I forgive you. I'm not forgetting, but I forgive you. And I think that's what also is big too, because people tend to be like thinking like, especially if they don't, especially if they themselves don't have like the spiritual beliefs or believe in God or or they're not Christian or whatever the case may be, whatever their religion is, they think you're supposed to forgive and forget. And that's not what God says to do. He says to forgive. He ain't saying nothing about forgetting anything. He just wants you to forgive. You don't have to, if you were to forget, that's just you putting yourself in that situation again, because now you forgot that this has even happened. That's how you create cycles for yourself and repeat the same things from happening or for happening to you. So that's why it's important to forgive, but definitely don't forget. And that's why I have this verse that, I found as I grew into my spirituality. It's Matthew 6:14-15. For if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive you of your sins. And I felt, that was big for me, because if I can't forgive someone else, how is God going to ever forgive me for all the junk that I've done?
Right.
And so, I that's what was, big for me and what helped me get through this. And not saying that what was done to me or what was done to you was okay, but it's definitely not okay to hold that in, because it doesn't do your body good, it doesn't do your mind good, it doesn't do your spirit good, it doesn't do you good, and it doesn't do you good at all. Holding it in can cause you to become resentful. It can cause you to become bitter, helpless, hopeless, empty, and enraged. And none of that does the body good. I Googled this, y'all. And also just learning it also through therapy as well. Like for instance, with me, I have neck and back issues. Like I've always had neck and back issues, probably stemming from after what happened to me. But I always thought it was like something, physical that, was going on with me, with my body and how it's made. But really, what I'm recognizing now is that all of the weight that I was carrying from what I was holding in and not being able to forgive, it was like wearing down my body. Like I felt it. Now I don't have that as much neck and back issues as I once had. And this is literally just a year ago, where I was dealing with all types of issues. And but now that I've been doing my healing process, it's also, not only am I healing myself and my soul, I'm also healing my body at the same time. because I'm no longer holding that in, because that it can create all types of issues like headaches, chest pains, fatigue. If you have issues with like your stomach, which is one of the things I know I had issues as well. Sleeping at night can be hard for you. You may not sleep, and that's one of my things. I wasn't able to sleep a lot, so I would either take something to make me go to sleep, or I would smoke. And so now smoking medical marijuana. I don't smoke cigarettes or anything like that, y'all. But yeah, so I was dealing with all types of issues. It can cause you to withdraw from wanting to be social with people. I know I do have some issues with social anxiety. Talking to new people sometimes can scare me. I'm getting better now. But talking to people would be hard for me, especially if I didn't know them, or if I'm at an event or something. Like, I'm not going to come up to you first. You got to come up to me first, and then
Right. Okay. Hi.
yeah, like hi, yeah, and then we find out we have a whole bunch of common, and then I'm just a chatterbox.
Yeah.
Cause now, especially if we have something in common, now I can talk to you about whatever. But I definitely know I have some social anxiety as well. Okay, so basically, what all I'm trying to say is that you just need to let go of all of it. Let go and let God, honey. Just release that thing, because it's not doing you any good. It's not doing the people around you any good, because now you are reacting and responding in a way, and they're like, what the heck is wrong with this person, when it's just you dealing with your stuff. So that's why I feel like it's very important for us to talk to others, but also talk to licensed therapists, and start to recognize some of the things that have been holding you back, because that's all it's doing, is holding you back from being the even more greater person that you're supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like she was saying, like it really affects you in all aspects. Mentally, physically, emotionally, all of those things, spiritually. So, like she said, let it go, give it to God.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode. If you are new here, please be sure to subscribe and go back to look at the previous episodes that you may have missed. If you are not new here, thank you for joining us again. We really appreciate it. I will say that I plan on showing my speech that I gave towards the end of this episode, so be sure to tune in and take a look. It's definitely not my prettiest moment, but it was a very real moment at that time. And if you would like to hear, be sure to stay tuned and listen for it. Yes.
But look out for it.
Is there anything that you would like to say? Anything you need to add?
I just want everyone to be healed.
Yeah.
Be blessed, be healed.
Yeah.
And be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Be honest with yourself. Because that is the true beginning of the journey to your healing.
Yes. Amen. All right. Now you can.
Well, I'm Serena. Nice to meet you if you're new. If you would like to follow me, you can go check out my Instagram at Rena Killingham. That's RenaKillilnem on Instagram.
And I'm Deshauna, and you can follow me on Instagram at Deshauna B. And then also, if you would like to follow any of my art photography, you can follow me at Sunflower Soul Studios on Instagram. And then also, if you are into any gardening or recipes like that, you can follow me and my love's Instagram page at Sugar Hill Garden 904. And that's Sugar Hill Garden 904.
With that, we send you peace and love.
And as always, stay soulful. Bye. As mentioned before, we will be showing my speech that I gave at the Silent Walk, The Weight of Silence. Please remember that day was very hard for me, and I was at a very vulnerable place. So please remember to be kind when commenting or replying. I pray that this inspires someone to finally say their truth. Let go of that unnecessary weight. Blessings.
I grew up as what some would say a sheltered child. Being that my dad was in the military, we would move almost every 3 years of my life. And being an only child, my parents were my everything. They were my constant. I look back now and realize all of what I was doing at 17. I was going to modeling gigs and auditions, all of the activities needed for graduation, playing high school sports, basketball, volleyball, looking at colleges, making time for my family and friends. And I was a pretty busy kid. But at 17, I was too busy with being busy that I didn't stop to think about what I was juggling internally, my secret struggle. So as a coping mechanism, I stayed busy so that I could hide or mask my flaws. I could just simply forget my pain because I was too busy. My secret struggle began when I was told my parents were divorcing. I thought I was losing my family. I thought I was losing my whole world, my constant. I began to rebel. I would sneak out of the house, even though I was never good at it and I would always get caught. But one night I didn't get caught. And in that one night, my whole perspective on everything changed. I had gotten away with sneaking out. And what happened that night became my biggest secret in a silent struggle for 13 years. I had snuck out with my friend and went to her then boyfriend's house with the hopes of seeing a crush. To my disappointment, my crush was not there, but someone else was. We were hanging out and drinking. I'm not sure of exact times, but at some point my friend had gone in the house with her boyfriend and I was outside with his friend talking. I can't recall how long I was outside with him before he took me in the house and into a dark room with just a TV on. I remember him asking me while he was on top of me if I was a virgin, and I replied yes. I would just fade in and out. I don't remember leaving his house. I don't remember the drive back to my friend's house. I don't remember going to sleep. I just remember waking up confused and that there was a little blood on the side of my pajama pants. I couldn't remember so much, so I was unsure of what really happened. Did I make it all up in my head? Do I say something? But what if it didn't happen? I don't want to get him in trouble if it didn't. And I don't want to get in trouble for sneaking out again and drinking. My parents were already arguing, so I didn't need to add to any of that. What do I do? I was silently suffering. I went to school the next day with all of this on my mind. And I again let the busy take over my time so that I didn't have to think about it. In 2020, I was turning 30. And I had decided that my 30s were going to be about me. After a nasty breakup, I spiraled and went into a deep depression for months, crying to those that I trusted, but not even realizing why I was crying. I wasn't crying about the breakup. I was crying because it caused me to face my pain. But I still did not say anything to anyone. Then the world stopped in 2020 when COVID hit, and I was stuck at home with these thoughts. I could no longer stay busy. I had to just sit in my thoughts. After months of crying and not getting anywhere, I made the decision to begin therapy. Therapy was an absolute blessing for me. It finally freed me from silently suffering. Every appointment with my therapist, I cried and learned I cried and learned that crying is a good thing. It's a way for you to release the pain. So I always encourage a good cry. Therapy allowed me to realize why throughout my life, men have been an issue for me, including the relationship with my own father. What happened to me caused me to have no trust for men, which would get in the way of my relationships with partners in the past. One day, my therapist gave me homework to write a letter to the person who raped me. He never asked to hear it or asked even if I wrote it. I just realized now that I wasn't even supposed to read it to him. I was supposed to read it to you. I just didn't realize I was going to have an audience as well. So here we go. This is my letter to my rapist. This letter was hard for me to write. What do you say to the person who stole something so sacred from you? Not only did you steal my innocence, but you stole my trust in men, including the trust in my own father. I hate that so much. Looking back on my life and seeing how much that trauma has such a major impact on my life. I didn't see it back then. I honestly wouldn't allow myself to. I recognize the patterns now since beginning my healing journey in 2020. I can look back at my journey and I am so proud of myself. Because even though I went through that, it had a deeply rooted pain inside that I chose to ignore. I still allowed myself to enjoy my life, the little moments. I did not let the hurt take over. I've always been an intuitive and empathetic person. I can sometimes feel what a person feels. I know now that this is my gift. And maybe that's one reason why I never said anything. Does that make me crazy? I don't know. But I feel you were going through your own traumas. And you were hurting at that time. And what do hurt people do? They hurt people. I feel that event changed you as well, but not for the good. I believe you have regrets. I also feel you beat yourself up about it. I don't believe you are a repeat offender. I believe you were wrapped up in your own traumas at that time, and I was wrapped up in mine. That whole day was me and my trauma. I had been drinking heavily. My parents were getting divorced, and I felt torn in the middle. I felt my life was crumbling. So that night, when we all met up to hang, all between the ages of 16 through 18 maybe, I feel we all met with our personal traumas. That does not make what you did okay. I'm still very upset and angry that it even happened. But I know I can forgive you for it. I can't keep holding on to this pain. I won't be able to be my best true self if I keep holding it. And my journey is all about my journey to self-love. I may not be able to forget what happened, but I am able to forgive you. I finally looked you up after my therapist asked me if I had. I even asked how you were doing. And from what I found out is that you had some rough times since we were kids, but you are doing okay. There doesn't seem to be a record of you doing this again, so I pray that is accurate. I don't know if I'll ever be able to approach you about this. I honestly just don't want to. Not out of fear, but because I believe in life, we make choices, and these choices create lessons. We're supposed to learn and grow from them. We have to realize ourselves that we have to address and acknowledge the struggles or forever live in the pain. I can't force you to recognize the pain that you've caused from a choice you made. This is for you to learn in order to forgive yourself. So for now, I pray for your healing as well as for mine. But I won't consider myself a victim. I'm way more than that. And when I complete my healing, I will live my life to the fullest and be happy and even more proud of myself. I won't let my lessons break me. Sincerely, Deshauna. Now, at the age of 32, I look back at my life throughout the years and see how I was masking my pain behind a smile, hoping nobody saw my cracks. I cry for that 17-year-old girl. She had plans for her virginity. She was going to wait until marriage. That was important to her. I cry because she lost not only her innocence that night, she also lost her writing, her reading, her art, and her dreams of modeling. She became sexually reckless because, oh well, my virginity is gone now. So I guess I'll start having sex, but this time it'll be my choice. She lost herself, and I feel as if it's my job now to make sure she gets her loves back. I am currently back writing. I found the love of photography and have even formed a business from it. And I've been doing some modeling again. I made a promise to my 17-year-old self that this time I'm not going to let anyone stop me from being me. As of my birthday last year in July, I made the decision to stop drinking. I haven't even had a sip, and I'm so very proud of myself for that. I not only started to take my mental and emotional health seriously, I started taking my physical health more seriously as well. I'm going to live my life the way I want freely. I would like to thank my family for their continued support. Today I have my mom, dad, stepdad, and my boyfriend. I have my beautiful son, Kason, here with me today, as well as some of my close friends here. And my beautiful doggy cat, Bless, that you all have been commenting on. Some are hearing this for the first time, and I know it's not easy to hear, but just know that I love you all so much, and I promise to keep pushing. So I encourage everyone today to confront your pain, sit down with it, get to know it some, but never let it consume you. The reason why I say sit in it is because then the next time you start to feel it coming, you know what to do and how to beat it. Depression is a trickster, because one moment you could be fine, and then the next wave of emotions comes, and you're down for a couple days or even more. I encourage others to speak up and talk loud, so you won't boil over and almost lose yourself completely. Thank you for your time today.